Ciao everyone, this is Nate on the Stone. Welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be asking a basic question. Why don't ideologues like Christmas? But before we dive into that, just as a reminder that if you like videos about the culture, politics, and religion from a different point of view, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring the bell for notifications. If you've been watching the news for the last couple of weeks, you probably will have noticed that there have been some interesting stories related to Christmas time. First up, the Huffington Post announced that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the beloved children's classic that Rankin and Bass produced in 1964, was quote-unquote seriously problematic. Why? Well, for starters, it's full of sexism. Remember that scene where Rudolph's dad, Donner, tells his wife that finding a runaway Rudolph is quote-unquote man's work? And it's also filled with bullying. Practically every character makes fun of Rudolph and his red nose.
Hey, look at the beak. Look at the beak. Buy us new.
Rainbow Paws, thanks now. Stop calling me names.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
So yes, it's very problematic. Even though the special is about overcoming bullying, overcoming adversity, and using what everyone tells you is a weakness into a strength. So it actually is a body positive message, if we want to use the jargon of the day. Second, we've learned for the third, fourth time, honestly, I don't know, I've lost count, that the song Baby It's Cold Outside is a song about date rape. Never mind that it was written in 1944 and so uses jargon from that time which sounds alien to our ears, and never mind that it's actually a song about mutual seduction, which you would think that ideologues would be all for, especially since the song comes from the supposed dark ages of the 1940s, but what do I know? Third, we've discovered that candy canes, the candy associated with Christmas, have apparently been violating the separation of church and state this whole time. This thanks to an eagle-eyed principal at the Manchester Elementary School near Omaha, Nebraska. The principal in question forbade candy canes in part because he said they were shaped like the letter J, which, as we all know, can only stand for the word Jesus. The principal also banned red and green from being put up at school during Christmas time just to err on the side of safety. Some people might chalk this up just to the war on Christmas, the war that we hear every year doesn't exist, but which totally does exist, because if it didn't exist, then things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer wouldn't be deeply problematic, and elementary schools wouldn't be forbidding candy canes. But that still doesn't answer the question why ideologues are so determined to suck out the innocent joys, like Christmas, out of life. And at this point, a question has to be asked. A serious question has to be asked. Could it be that ideologues really just want people to be included in society? Could it be that they just want tolerance to reign throughout society? Should their claims be taken at face value? I really wish that I could answer yes to that question, because it would mean that while ideologues might be wrong, they might be mistaken, at least their hearts would be in the right place. The problem, though, is that inclusiveness doesn't answer why these things happen. Take Rudolph again. The entire special is practically a PSA about inclusiveness and tolerance, because it's about pushing past and beyond people's prejudices and turning what everyone tells you is a weakness into a strength. Saying that it's deeply problematic on the basis of inclusiveness and tolerance doesn't make any sense when the whole point is that we have to be inclusive and tolerant. The same thing goes with candy canes. If we really were serious about being inclusive and being tolerant, then wouldn't that mean that Christians, Christianity, and Christian holidays would be given an equal sitting at the table? And wouldn't that mean that candy canes being passed out in elementary schools wouldn't be a big deal, even if they were shaped like J's and J's could only stand for Jesus? And am I the only one who's noticed that for a candy cane to actually look like the letter J, you have to turn it upside down, which means that they wouldn't be candy canes so much as candy hooks? Seriously, am I the only one who's noticed that? Now, there is an answer to this question, and it's not just something like they hate Christmas or they don't want people to have fun. But in order to actually answer the question, we're going to have to take a step backwards. First, we have to ask, what is it that ideologues ultimately want? And the answer is they want utopia. They are convinced that they can bring heaven down to earth. The key word being they. They are the only ones who can actually accomplish this. But this means, and this is a fact that they all acknowledge, this means that human nature, good and bad, is going to have to be changed. Because if human nature is allowed just to flow along like it always has, then human nature is going to louse up the program and utopia isn't going to happen. How many times, after all, have the best of intentions been loused up by human nature, by greed, laziness, stupidity, etc., etc.? This means that ideologues know that they have to control as much of human nature and human lives as possible, because if human nature is just allowed to do what it always has done, utopia is going to be delayed again, meaning that more people will be doomed to hell and despair here on Earth. Everywhere that ideologues have been in charge, these control measures have been put into place. Different means and methods for different times and places, but they've always been there. So Mussolini had the black shirts, the Soviet Union had Pravda, the modern university has its safe spaces, and platforms like Twitter and Patreon, who suspiciously act more like publishers, kick people off of them for hate speech and for the breaking of imprecise, hazy rules and codes of conduct. In other words, anything that threatens the arrival of utopia, which, coincidentally and conveniently, is defined by the ideologues themselves, has to be neutralized. And one of the things that has to be neutralized in order for utopia to finally arrive is innocent joy like Christmas, and all the things that come with Christmas, Rudolph and candy canes included. And the reason why innocent joy has to be neutralized is because ideologues know and understand that they can't control them. The only joys that can be allowed in an ideological system are the ones that ideologues can control. Think of ideology, any ideology, as a perpetual motion machine. It doesn't have to look for anything outside of itself, and in fact, it can't look for anything outside of itself because anything outside of itself could potentially harm it. Ideology, it's kind of like this Newton's cradle. I do this. Now, this cradle will eventually stop like it's already doing, but that's only because of friction, something outside of it. If friction didn't enter into the equation, this Newton's cradle would go on forever. And innocent joys like Christmas act like friction on this Newton's cradle to ideologies. Ideologies promise us utopia on a silver platter. They promise us paradise here on Earth at some unspecified point in the future. All we have to do is listen to them and everything will be great. But innocent joys like Christmas have a tendency to take us out of these futuristic dreams because they ground us in the moment where we're not thinking about some grand scale utopian far off future. Instead, we're content in the moment. Think about a Christmas morning with the ground still littered with wrapping paper from presents and the family still bubbling with excitement. Or think about a Christmas evening, a fire blazing in the fireplace, the kids are asleep, and your SO is by you on the sofa. Life is good. You're content. You don't want that timeless moment to ever go away. You want it to last forever. In that sort of environment, an ideology can't compete because the perfect future world that it holds out to us, that it promises us, it doesn't have the same appeal as the contentment that we have found in that moment. And once we get thoughts like that in our heads, who knows where they might lead? We might even decide that we don't need the ideology. Innocent joys like Christmas keep the ideology from spreading because these innocent joys, they keep people grounded in the moment. Or it might be better to say that it keeps people grounded in reality. And that's why things like Christmas and all the things associated with Christmas, Rudolph, carols, candy canes, red and green. They have to be taken down a notch so that they don't pose a serious threat to the ideology. But what say you? Do innocent joys like Christmas pose a threat to ideologies, or should we take ideologues at face value when they say that they just want society to be tolerant and inclusive of everyone? As always, let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Well, that about wraps it up for this time, gang. As always, if you like this video, whether you agree with me or not, then don't forget to give the video a like. Honestly, it really helps me. Subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications because I post new videos like this every Tuesday and you won't want to miss them. Thank you as always for watching. Merry Christmas, and I will see you all again next week on Top of the Stone. Ciao.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and a Happy New Year to the world!